How to cut someone's head off. I tell you, but then YouTube would do this to our video. What's up guys, welcome back to TUGGtv, and you're watching another episode of #asktuggtv, a little mini series that happens on the first of every month where you ask us questions, any sort of question, and we answer to the best of our abilities. But before we get into it, subscribe, no? One button is there, chuma. Then one bell icon will come, chuma. Niladri Sumardar, does USB Type-C have any advantages over Type-B in audio interfaces? Niladri, that is a really good question. Now when it comes to USB, there are two things that you have to keep in mind. The version, which determines things like USB 1.1, 2.0, 3.0, and then the latest 3.1. And then of course, the type, which is Type A, your conventional USB, Type B, which is used in audio interfaces and printers, and then of course Type C, which you see on almost all smartphones and tablets. What you have to keep in mind is that the version is what determines things like speed, throughput, and power output as well. The type is more so a connectivity thing. Now between B and C, what C really brings to the table in terms of its connectivity is a reversibility. So unlike Type B, you can plug Type C in either ways and it will work. Not to mention it is far widely more available because you have that many more devices that are actually using it. So yeah, reversibility and availability is what it really brings to the table. Now the version is where all the magic would happen. If you are, for example, using a 3.0 device, in that case what happens is you'd have a throughput of about 5 Gbps and a power output of about 5 amps, which would be enough to go ahead and power up like a smartphone, maybe even provide some phantom power to your audio interface. But that's about it. On the other hand, if you are on 3.1, then in that case you could power output about 20 amperes, which might just be enough to go ahead and power up the device itself. So if we look at it from sort of a roadmap and future standpoint, USB Type-C with 3.1 would definitely sort of make sense, because then you can do away with that, pretty additional power adapter. You can still have it, but you won't be mandated to using it. But apart from that, most of the devices right now are sort of USB 2.0. Even the two devices that you mentioned, I didn't see any specifics on the version. It's just connectivity. The only one that I've seen actively positioning itself as a 3.0 device is one by Steinberg. I've linked it in the description below in case you want to take a look at it.
How does mic placement in amp sims affect the tone? So mic positioning in your amp simulators pretty much emulates what it is to actually use a speaker and mic it up. So whenever you're using a microphone which is very close to the actual center of the cone, this is gonna give you quite a lot of gritty sound, a bit of that treble hit, and then quite honestly an in-your-face sound. Now as you move towards the outsides of the cone, it kind of does get a bit more bass oriented. Not only that, but you also add this kind of airiness to the whole tone of it. Now if your microphone is placed exactly on the grill, you pretty much get the pure sound which is coming out of the speaker. Now as you keep moving away from the cone, well, the proximity effect does come into play. Now just a small example of the proximity effect, this is how I sound when I'm, say, at least like a foot or a foot and a half away from the microphone.
And this is how I sound if I'm really close.
Now considering how these two things work together, usually the best sounding effect is pretty much if you use one microphone which is focused near the middle of the cone and one which is, well, slightly offset. And well, coming to the distance from the grill, well, you can pretty much choose if you want an in-your-face mix or something which is a bit more airy and pretty much like that.
Alright, next up we have Sean and Abby asking us questions in terms of drum programming. Yeah, I use Superior Drummer. I'm using the Superior Drummer 3 right now. The reason I do that is because I started off on Easy Drummer. So Superior Drummer not only is a good software with a huge sort of, bank to choose from, but it also sort of centralized all my current Easy Drummer kits and, presets and all of that. So I have like one repository to focus on. If you're looking for something free, I had recently done a video linked in the description again. I would actually suggest you look at MT Power Drum Kit 2. It's free. It's got a sort of small repository. Again, even if the repository is not big enough, there's plenty of places where you can go for free MIDIs. You can put that in, and a fairly easy to use drum kit sounds pretty nice as well.
active or passive pickups. So when it comes to the whole debate of active versus passive, I think we're at a point when we don't need to discuss about this anymore. We have quite a lot of passive pickups, especially like the Seymour Duncan Nazgul and Pegasus, the Diamazio X2, and quite a few other pickups which are really hot and well meant for metal. Now when it comes to oversaturation of tone, we did kind of have this experiment to try and see how the EMG works, and well, you can have a look on your own. The links to the video will be in the description and well here as well. So well, coming back to the whole topic of pickups, you can just look into which are the pickups which kind of give you the input signal what you're looking for, and well, just go with them. And also do keep in mind that active pickups do give you a much more compressed sound. Well, most of the time that's a good thing, but sometimes, yeah, it can add to the disadvantage. And the hot topic for all the discussions which are happening these days, the Fishman fluence. Now, in my personal opinion, the Fishman fluence have been one of the more innovative ideas which have been added to the whole pickup lines, well, in the past few decades. I'm waiting to get my hands on one of these pickups and try it out on my own, but from what I've heard on all the audio samples and from a few people who have used them, it's absolutely killer.
Top 5 Indian metal bands. Alright, now I want to make clear that this is not in an order. Firstly, the OGs of our scene, Cryptos, Demonic Resurrection, these guys were one among the first to do it, and they have done it really, really well for so many years. Apart from that, I am a big fan of Inner Sanctum. I like their stuff. Recently also got into Godless. I think they've got a really, really nice vibe. And I also am sort of really, really into Project Mishram. I like where the band is headed, and I look forward to hearing more of them.
So top 5 for me at the moment would actually consist of Gutslit, Undying Ink, Cryptos, the guys from Bloodywood, and finally, I'm not sure how many of you guys would actually have heard of this band, Joint Family.
Favorite custom guitar of an artist definitely has to be Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat, because that really is the ultimate custom sort of guitar, and come to think about it, that's the one that started it all.
Okay, I'm somebody who loves Flying V, so my first option would have been Dave Mustaine's Jackson Flying V if it was still around. And since it's not, I think I'd pretty much go with Millie Petrosa's Arrow from ESP. And well, Abbott's Schecter also looks pretty cool.
What genres of music you like outside of metal? Outside of metal, I am a very, very big rock fan. I grew up on a lot of rock. My dad was into rock, so yeah, that kind of, rubbed off. So yeah, the Pink Floyds, the Deep Purples, the Uriah Heeps, I've been hearing them since I was a little kid. So definitely a lot of rock over there. I occasionally do also indulge in some punk, a little bit of old school rap. By rap, what I mean is I look at and listen to lyrical rap. I don't like this mumble rap BS that is out there. And a lot of old pop. Again, guys like ABBA, maybe even Boney M and MJ, because they've got nice bass lines. So yeah, that's about it.
For me personally, other than metal, I think I'd go for old school hip hop or the older pop albums as well. Pretty much anything which brings something new to the table and doesn't follow, a formulaic approach to all the things. That's one of the main reasons why I hated boy bands in the beginning, by the way. Can we change the humbuckers on a guitar? ESP LTD M130 with HSH configuration to EMGs? So the most straightforward answer to this question would be yes. Although ESP provides you with quite a few options for the humbuckers, I think they have either 1 or 2 offerings for the single coil pickups. So yeah, choose carefully and install them into your guitar. With that said, I wanted to add a bit more of information to this topic. Pretty much most of the pickups which have your standard humbuckers can be replaced by any of your EMGs or Seymour Duncans or your standard humbuckers and single coils. The only thing that you need to consider, especially if you're switching over to active pickups, is just how much space you have in your control cavity. Yeah, for a second I just went blank there. So yeah, as long as your pickup cavity is big enough to host a 9V battery, you should be pretty fine. And another word of advice for all the people out there who are using super strats and strat guitars, make sure you have enough cavity between your pick guard and the body wherein if you want to host a push-pull port. We are essentially running into a couple of these problems when we were working on our custom guitars, and well, it can be quite painful to solve.
Best wireless over-ear monitors. Alright, so in my case, I almost did sort of finalize on the Audio Technica M50BX, but then of course I got something else in the used market. Wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but then it got the job done. So based on the little R&D that I did, yeah, I think the M50BX is a great option for you to consider. I've also heard good things about Harman's AKG N60. You could check that out as well.
Which one do you guys like more? MultiFX pedal or pedal board or real pedals? Okay, in all honesty, I would prefer to have single pedals over a MultiFX processor. But one of the things what you have to keep in mind if you're going for the pedal approach is to know exactly the kind of tone what you're looking for. And well, you need to invest quite a lot of money into it. So if you're somebody who's there in the beginning of your guitar career, well, you can always go for a MultiFX processor, understand the possibilities what each of the module gives you, and then kind of upgrade.
It's different for different people, so I'm not saying one is better than the other. But if I have to go by my preference, I'm probably MultiFX processors on this one. I sort of change a lot of parameters. I like to sort of, get down to possibly having different amp modelings and, all that stuff, which is where it would work because I can do a whole lot more in a preset and just save that. And then when I want to access it, it's just sort of one button over there. It works really well in a live situation because many a times you may not have a really, really good amp at the live place that you're playing. In which case you could just go DI and then you have amp modeling to sort of get it going for what you have. And finally, of course, a lot of the new guys, you can also do some amount of MIDI controlling. So in case you've got VSTs and all that you use at home, there is a possibility depending on the model that you get, you could also control some VSTs. So yeah, MultiFX for me. Best metal subgenre according to you? I firmly believe that there is no best metal subgenre. They're all amazing in their own ways, and also that's very, very subjective. It's different for different people. In my opinion, metal is metal, and let's keep it that way.
So the ones which are near and dear to me are thrash metal and death metal, and of course, if you can make it a death thrash, well, all the better.
How do you control the pinky? You need practice, bro. There is simply no two ways about it because you're gonna have to exercise that finger to develop strength. You could exercise it when you're doing like scales and mods and all of that, and when you're warming up. Another thing is you can choose bits and pieces of songs that you might already know of, and then either slow it down if you have to or speed it up depending on what you're trying to do, and keep exercising that little pinky finger of yours.
Do you consider Alice in Chains rock, or do you consider them metal? To be quite honest, Alice in Chains is one of these bands which kind of come near the border of, say, rock and metal. Personally, I do put them in the rock category, but then a few of the riffs are very metal-esque. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who thought this, because if you go through history, they did tour with the three titans of thrash. Thoughts on the early born music man Majesty JP15? So Mohit, when you think about the Majesty JP15, it's one of these guitars which looks incredibly well, offers you quite a lot of tonal possibilities, and well, comes with a price tag. Honestly, for somebody like me, I don't think it justifies the price tag that it comes with. I'd rather go in the way of having a high-end Schecter or an ESP. So if you are somebody who kind of worships John Petrucci and want to, kind of have a piece of his legacy, well, yeah, you might as well go for it.
And with that, I just realized we didn't shoot an outro while I was editing this. So thank you guys so much for all the questions that have come in. Bass Boy, you had some awesome questions that came, and that will be done in the next episode as a rapid fire, so stay tuned for that. And for the rest of you, keep those questions coming, comment section, or on any of our social media handles. Hit us up, ask us whatever you want, and we'll be happy to answer to the best of our abilities. So I will catch you in the next one. Meantime, check out some other of these videos. Stay metal.